Pause.
Hello. Welcome back. It's week 4 of the Rebuildables podcast show. I'm so excited to be here in Columbia, Missouri, where it is snowing like crazy. We've been having a lot of weird snow days. So anyone who's listening right now within the area, please be careful driving, walking, anything. It's mushy. If you're going to class, which you should be doing, school's important. Make sure that you're taking the right precautions while you're walking around so you don't get hurt. No slipping and falling. We don't want to get hurt. That's me just being, a genuine human being. So, yay. First of all, I want to say a special shout out to everyone who's listening, of course, here at 88.1 KCOU. I'm really excited to be here. I love this show. I love doing it. If you missed the Saturday special episode about college basketball, I'm not going to be putting that one on everything because I only have X amount of hours that I pay for. And I really just can't. I don't want to get too far behind. And that really wasn't an episode. We didn't look at any teams. So this week, though, this episode, which if you're listening live, thank you very much. If you're not, you'll be able to catch this one on Spotify, Apple Music. Also, make sure you're following the Twitter page. I haven't been doing an amazing job keeping it updated. I'm not going to lie. But I know that I'll be doing a better job of that in the future. And I also plan on working on it more. And I'll keep doing updates on it. It's important that I do updates on it. And you can also find any information if I'm going live Saturday for Sports Saturday. So, yeah, that's kind of the agenda of what I needed to talk about that wasn't really show related. This week, we're looking into the Cleveland Browns. Yeah. There's so much I could say, but also so little that I could say because it is very difficult. That I don't get it sometimes with them. They're very difficult to really comprehend. And they're a team that are like the Cubs of football because now the Cubs are good, so this doesn't work as well. But when they were bad, they had guys and fans who were always there, always, without fail. It was very incredible. Going to a Cubs game is like one of those things that you do in the city. And it was very special. But in Cleveland's the same way with the Browns. So, before we go on that, I want to get into a little bit of Mizzou basketball. Because, one, I'm covering them this Saturday. But you should definitely tune into. They're playing the Auburn Tigers. Tigers versus Tigers. Another classic. But they had the Rally for Ryan game. I went to that game. It was very, very good. Very fun to watch and very fun to listen to. The broadcast was great. Chance and Grayson did an amazing job. The studio crew is always as good, and the producing, spectacular, as always. But it was one of the few games that Mizzou had a real crowd. And there was a lot of talk after the game about that crowd. And it was really interesting to me about how it's really tough to decide what Mizzou fans want and when they want to support and what's the line of support. They're always there. There's like two camps of you don't want to be a fair weather fan. You want to stick, you want to ride, you want to die. But you also get tired of mediocrity, being in the same spot and being towards the middle and end, which is something that we kind of like doing. Yes, that game for Rally for Ryan, we had over, I think, 11,000 people, $80,000 raised for pediatric cancer. I might have said that wrong. But that was also very good. That's one of those bigger than basketball moments. I talked about that Saturday, and that's why I love that game. But we don't really get that. We don't have a lot of those games like that where there's a lot of fans, there's a noise factor. And when we had it, it changed the dynamic of the game. It was a frustrating game to watch. Like, if I was just talking to you about it like that as a basketball fan, this is one of the most frustrating games I've ever watched. Only because everything felt off and a lot of calls were very late. And it really didn't, the game didn't have a lot of flow to it. Everything kind of just got stopped. But it wasn't, if someone got slapped on the wrist, they call it. Once they got slapped on the wrist, they called it after the shot went in the basket. And even though it was consistent calling, it really messed with everything I felt in that game. But Mizzou pulled out for the win there, but they also just went to LSU and lost. That was tough, though, because I really didn't get a chance to watch that game, but I was keeping up with it, and they were there for 3/4 of that game. And at the end, they just couldn't pull it out. LSU is a very good team. They lost to Auburn, but Auburn's also a very good team. So the three Tigers, they're probably the second best. And they're still very good at what they do. And Will Wade knows how to pull it out, and they just have more talent than we do. The Mizzou team is just really weird when I watch them. They have this ability to shoot and confidence of shooting, but they just don't hit, it feels like. But you also know they can. It's like they're a bunch of guys that if they catch fire, they can be very, very good, but they all need to catch fire. And you just have a lack of big men with Tillman being out. Reed Nico's really good. Mitchell Smith's very good. But even with those guys, you need like one or two more, because once one gets into foul trouble, you don't know what to do. Jackson, I forget his first name, is also very. He's an energy guy, and he played like an energy guy. So that's my piece for the big news this week. Outside of also Mizzou softball's 5-0, beat 4 ranked teams. They jumped 16 spots in the polls. Shout out to them. They are also one of the 3 teams affected in the postseason bowl ban, including Mizzou football, Mizzou baseball, and Mizzou softball. So I really hope that they have a very good season, and to kind of spite the NCAA. And I hope there's kind of going to be this argument around why, everyone's going to know why they're not there, but they're going to be like, what if Mizzou was in this tournament? The Mizzou softball team looks very good. They're kind of doing what the Mizzou soccer team did this year, and that start really hot. But I hope they can keep that momentum. They have a lot of seniors on that team. Mizzou soccer, was a little more younger, and there was a younger team that kind of jumped out really hot. So, without further ado, I'm going to give a quick introduction to the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to give us a little outline of what we're doing, and then when we take this quick little break, we'll break down a team at the bottom, like we always do. That's the whole point of the show. The Cleveland Browns have not won a Super Bowl since, and I'm still scrolling. That has to show you something. Up until 1964, excuse me. And that's, 1964. And I'd say, oh, wow, like I didn't look at this before. But it's very hard to comprehend how long ago that was. Like, I'm not going to do the math on it, but a lot of people weren't around, especially anyone in KCOU, or even some parents maybe weren't around when the Cleveland Browns won a Super Bowl. And that's crazy. The last time the Cleveland Browns were in the playoffs at all was 2002, and they lost in the West Conference. This is a team that was also just 9-7. After that, they've only had, looks like, one winning season, and that was in 2007. They went 10-6. But after that, it's just been losing, and losing. But the Browns now have some hope. You have some very good receivers in Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry. And you have this quarterback of the future, but he really didn't show anything this year in Baker Mayfield. But where do you go from here? And what needs to change? We'll find that out when I come back with the Rebuildables show and podcast here on KCOU 88.1 FM.
A delicious power breakfast. Great way to start the day.
I'm Brandon Anthony.
And I'm Keegan Harbin.
Make sure to tune in every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. to listen to me.
And me on our new show, Breakfast of Champions.
Here on KCOU Sports, KCOU 88.1 FM.
Tune in to One of These Nights on KCOU 88.1 FM. Join host Garrett Jones to talk the weirdest and wackiest in all 4 professional sports. I'm on from Sunday nights from 5 to 6 on KCOU 88.1 FM. And if you ever miss a show, catch it wherever you enjoy podcasts. It's One of These Nights on KCOU 88.1 FM.
All she needed was some. 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 All she needed was some.
This Saturday, catch men's basketball here on KCOU. Men's basketball is always on KCOU 88.1 FM. Tune in this Saturday, February 15th at 5 p.m. to hear our coverage of Tigers basketball against the Auburn Tigers. It's a Tigers versus Tigers matchup, one of the SEC favorites. Once again, is this Saturday, February 15th, Tiger Tip-Off presented by El Rancho will start at 4:30, and the men's basketball game presented by El Rancho will start at 5 p.m. here, right here, in this studio at KCOU 88.1 FM. I will be in the studio for that game, so you'll get another in-depth analysis of my Mizzou Tigers and what I believe this team is about. So if there's any other reason for you to tune in outside of listening to our amazing broadcast and to get a chance to listen to the game, it would be just to hear me talk about the team more, because why wouldn't you want to do that? You're already here. Might as well just spend more time with us. We always appreciate your time. Any minute that you spend here on KCOU 88.1 on FM, put that number one on your dials and tune in on the TuneIn app or on our website at kcou.fm. So outside of me just plugging everything KCOU, we're going to get on to those Browns. Browns. Not the Bears. I'm sorry. I had to try it just because it's kind of fun. So now that we're kind of here, we're sitting back. Where do we start? I could start from 1964, but I don't have 4 hours, and that's a lot of movement, and it's too many characters. I could start from 2002, but that's also a lot of characters. So I wanted to make this something that, I wasn't a sports fan, if I were to listen to it, it can make kind of some sense. And you don't have to keep up with 4,000 people, especially because in football, there are so many players. There's 55 players on an active roster. So movement is very, very common. A lot of people get dropped, cut, traded, moving free agency. Team rosters don't look the same after 3 years. So think about it after 10. So to kind of make this episode easier to follow, I'm going to kind of look at bigger names and names that would stick out. I'm definitely going to look at the quarterback situation and kind of some of the coaches. So this will make it easier. So we're not just kind of following every little offensive and defensive lineman, even though those guys are all important. Every guy on a roster is obviously very important, but I don't want to boggle you down with names. So I just want to get started here. We're going to go look into 2010. So we're going to go about 10 years. I think that's a good point because from 2010 to 2019, there's literally been no winner. I don't want to say no winner, but they haven't won a game. Oh, no, wait. What am I saying? They haven't had a winning season. Okay, I'm going to have to cut that later. But they have not had a winning season in the last decade. That's absolutely insane. That's another level of losing. Like, wow. Even the Bears have had a winning season. So, to start, 2010, we're sitting here with Eric Magani. He's 5-11. Again, this is another team in the AFC. And I say that because the AFC has produced a lot of the champions, including your Kansas City Chiefs, I guess, and the Patriots. So two teams that are very good. And you also have a lot of other competition. The AFC this year was so stacked. And you had a lot of talent. A team like Tennessee was a perfect example of that. Different style of football, running it, taking the clock out, scoring 14 points and winning, which is something we're not used to in a lot of passing and the amount of passing that happens in football games now. And that just shows the diversity, but also how good the AFC is. Not to say the NFC isn't up to par. NFC also has some very good teams. The 49ers were absolutely so solid and very, very good. But it was also hard to get a grasp on them as well because they were the best team in the NFC. But even with them, you have the Saints. I don't want to say the Bears. But a couple other teams there. But the AFC is usually ends up being your champion. And you have to fight out of the AFC. Even the Patriots had to fight. But they were in the AFC. And they're in the North Division. With that, we bring in this 5-11 team. And we look at the starters on this team. And the big player I want to bring in, and you'll see why I keep talking about this, is the quarterback. And it's Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy is a rookie. He's 24. He's the 3rd-round pick. And he's starting. One of the things that was really weird about the Cleveland Browns is when they had a good offensive line, they didn't have a great quarterback. So you had all this great blocking for some guy who wasn't hitting passes. And now, and I'll look at more of this when we get into today, your offensive line isn't that good, but you have the offensive weapons. I kind of stated this last week, but to have a very good football team, you need about 10 to 15 or at minimum 5 players that are top 10 in their position. Guys that statistically are very good or will pass the eye test with flying colors. And the Cleveland, with that, you can't just have 10 players spread around. There needs to be, and this is where coaching becomes so important and why football coaches get moved so quickly, is because you can get talent, but if it doesn't work with the players you have, it won't be successful. I go back to this year, the Ravens. The Ravens came in, John Harbaugh decided to run a lot of run-pass option, which is basically the quarterback can run a lot, the running back can run a lot, or you could throw it to a receiver all in one play. It's like a super play. And they did that because Lamar Jackson is a good thrower, but not an amazing thrower. He's not going to sit there and just make perfect passes every game, but he can run the ball so well. He's a very athletic quarterback. And they had a good running back in Mark Ingram behind him, and you had decent receivers that were fast. So if you're making short passes, they can not only catch it, but maybe get you a yard or two being faster than the safeties. So when you're building a football team, it's not just about having good players. It is about making those good players make sense. And you can do this on both sides of the ball. Last year when the Bears were very good. Not this last season, like season 99, not season 100. Their defense was built for success to the point where they're almost scoring a touchdown per game on defense, or at least having points on the board. That's absolutely insane. And that's what made them so good, because their team was built around like Khalil Mack, Leonard Floyd, Danny Trevathan. These guys are all good defenders that all knew how to work together in a very good system. That's what makes you successful. There's a lot of pieces in football. You have 11 people on both sides of the field. There's so many things you can do with that. And this is where the Browns have struggled. Every team has those 10 players in one way or the other. Even if some of them aren't there yet, some of those guys might be young. But between quitting on guys like their quarterbacks or not having a good build around because of the coach, you see a lot of this losing. This starts with Colt McCoy. And I'm going to keep going through these quarterbacks throughout the years, who is a rookie at 24, but he's starting. When you have a rookie starting, it's going to be rough, but that's okay. And you don't expect it to be great. You don't need it to be great. But if you don't keep trying and trusting in it, you're going to struggle. An example of this is when they fire him. They fire the coach and they go with Pat Schumer just after a year. They don't give, now Colt McCoy's in a new system. They don't know what to do. And it's learning a new system, especially if you're coming straight out of college and you have one set of offense and you have to learn another against guys who do this now for a living. College, you do it for a scholarship. Now you're doing this for a living. You know, you're getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. You don't have to do anything else. You can work out, you can get better at your game, and you'll be fine. You're going to get paid for that. They're at that position. So this is the top of the top. And you're now learning your third system in, let's say, 3 years. Another one of the things that really boggles people about the Browns is they had a lot of draft picks, and they never, ever hit. It feels like they never hit. But do they never hit? Or is the team built around them to fail? In this second season, Colt McCoy goes for 14 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He doesn't play that bad. But now he has a rookie wide receiver who gets 2 touchdowns, 3 rushes, and that's in Greg Little. But there's also another rookie on the line, the left guard. All of these things make a difference because these are young teams that if we keep not trusting in, nothing is going to happen. There's not going to be success. That 2011 team is also now 4th out of 4th in the North AFC division. And it's very tough to kind of keep going through this, right? I'm just giving you names and numbers. But that's kind of how the best way to kind of look at these things, especially with guys, because there's movement going on already. I'm just looking through stats and rosters on my computer, and there's just so much difference, but I can't go through all those. We moved to 2012. Pat Schumer is still your head coach, but now it's 5-11. 1 game difference. But that's not going to be enough. They're still 4th. They're the bottom of the bottom. But guess what? They have a new quarterback. and Brandon Weeden, who throws for 14 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. Again, after 2 years, he's already now in the system, and he was their first round pick of that year. Especially because the Cleveland Browns, when they trade, don't trade picks because they don't win. So trading away picks when you don't win is not good. Usually teams don't do that. That's part of rebuilding, is getting a lot of draft picks. But now because of this, now Brandon Weeden is now in the system. So now the receivers like Josh Gordon, who's a rookie, and Trent Richardson, the running back, are not only learning a new system, but so is their quarterback, who's new. And now you're sitting here, you're like, what's going on? Like, just like that, there's been so much turnaround. A guy like Greg Little, who was kind of getting good with Colt McCoy, you know, now they've played for a season under the same coach. Now it's get used to a new quarterback. They also have a new running back who, Trent Richardson, if I'm correct, when it came out of Alabama, had a lot of potential, but just didn't work out. That's another thing. He was their third pick. It's just kind of tough to watch. And you can see it through the numbers, and nothing hurts than seeing it more through the numbers. Because, yeah, you can eye test everything and be like, well, he was right there. But they didn't eye test. And even if you look good in college, these guys didn't pan out well. So now we're moving a bit now. And after the 2012 season, Pat Schumer, the next coach, that was the second in the list already, is fired. And he's replaced by Rob Chizingski. I'm not going to say it now. We're just going to call him Rob. Okay? Not Rob Lowe, but Rob. And Rob comes in and does the same thing the other coaches did. Lose. Again, I told you, this team didn't have a winning season in this decade, if I'm correct, which is scary. But now you're looking at another system. And with another system comes another quarterback, I guess. Now it's Jason Campbell, who's not even picked by the Cleveland Browns. He's picked by the Redskins. He comes in, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Josh Gordon's still here. He's young, though. This is his first season. He does pretty well for himself. Greg Little's now in his second year here. You can see some of the pieces kind of working together. But what you don't see is the same quarterback. They didn't even give a second year to this quarterback. And that's kind of like the epitome of the Browns. You keep going through these quarterbacks. You keep shuffling through these players. And then this quarterback's learning a brand new system. And this is the nice thing about my good man here, Campbell, is at least he's been in the league now for a couple of years. It wasn't just him being thrown into the fire as a rookie. But it doesn't make a big of a difference. Jason Campbell is not the go-to guy. And like, if he was that good, you would still remember him. I have a vague memory of Jason Campbell because I just kind of remember weird names. That's part of my career, I guess. And he's one of those weird names. You're like, oh yeah, Jason Campbell and this and that. Like, and that's what makes it hard to kind of like really understand this team, but also help them get better and help themselves. Because they're also getting these draft picks and they have cap space. But they look at, all right, free agents look at the Browns and they're like, what's going on here? Am I okay here? Can I work? Like, will I be able to do what I want here? I don't want to say do what I want, but will you have the opportunity to stay for more than a year? Will we have the same pieces? Will my quarterback be the same next year? Or will we keep this coach? Those aren't questions you need to have. And the flip-flop of this roster, of these rosters in general, makes it hard not only to make an episode out of this that's easy to listen to, but to make sense of. Because some of it is, especially in football now, guys are retiring younger because of head trauma and everything else. But guys just get moved. And with 55 guys on a roster, anyone could go anywhere in a heartbeat. So now that I've gone on a little rant again, let's go into 2014. When, again, we have a brand new spanking head coach in Mike Pettine, who goes 7-9. Okay, we have improvement, but they're still fourth in the AFC North. I'm starting to understand it now. And guess what? There's another new quarterback, Brian Hoyer. Just like that, it's the thing I'm going to keep complaining about. You have another new quarterback in this spot. Now, this is his 5th year in the league. This is not, a rookie at least yet. But it's like, come on. No one gets a chance here. And he's 12-13, but he only has Miles Austin and Andrew Hawkins, who don't do amazing. The one thing that kind of stinks is their Pro Football Reference doesn't have like their percentage of catches. But his top target, Brian Hoyer's top target, Andrew Hawkins, only had 63 catches throughout the whole season and 2 TDs. You're not going to win if you only have 2 touchdowns from your best receiver. And you could say it's a spread attack of 2 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown. He spread the wealth. That's 2, 4, 6, 7. Spread the wealth. And even his new fullback, who's now another rookie because we have these draft picks, doesn't even have a touchdown in this season. It's so frustrating to just look at this and just try to explain the importance of just a team that keeps losing and why they keep losing at times. I love doing it. I'm not trying to say I hate this or I'm tired, but this is where, as a Browns fan, you can see why this discontent for just anything at this point is just so high. So much turnover, so quick. And they have some talent. That guy, Kyle Shanahan, he's the offensive coordinator of this team. But what can I tell you that's new outside of there's roster turnover? They lose. It's kind of sad. It's a little annoying, I feel like, and I feel like this is going to be a very repetitive episode because of it. But this is really what being a Cleveland Browns fan felt like. It's just a lot of repetition, a failure. I mentioned the Chicago Cubs because go White Sox won. But 2, for a long time, the Cubs was just maybe get there and lose. Maybe get there and lose. Lose. And the thing I commend the most is the support of the Browns and how they aren't those fair weather fans I kind of talked about earlier with Missouri that when they win, they'll show. No, these guys haven't won, and the weather in Cleveland's not amazing, and they're there. There has to be something said about that. Let's go back now into 2015. We're getting closer to 2019. We're getting there. 2015, Mike Pettine is still the head coach, and they just bomb. Most notably, your offensive coordinator, that's Kyle Shanahan, not here anymore. Now it's John DeFilippo. 3-13, 4th in the AFC North again. It's like clockwork. And let's look here at their starting quarterback. Now it's Josh McCown. Okay. He's 36, too. Like, this is not even young Josh McCown. This is 36-year-old Josh McCown at this time. He goes for 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Good for him. He has a positive start, And you can see now Isaiah Crowell has 4 touchdowns. Travis Benjamin has 5. You're like, okay, we're getting somewhere. This is not just all sugar and just sugar covered poop. There's something going on here. And they're running this West Coast offense, which is kind of new at this time. It's becoming more modern now and more normal to be faster, throw more, and that kind of benefits them until they don't win because they could score, but they don't stop anybody either. I haven't gone too deep into the Browns defense. That's because the Browns defense has always been not enough. So I could go through names and people. But the most frustrating thing about this team is there's so much turnover in the spot that you expect people to be a leader in, which is just really weird to look at. Now, after Mike Pettine's fired, we go into 2016. We're getting there. 2016, election year. Maybe something changes. We have a chance, right? Anything is possible. I'm just kidding. It's 1-16 Cleveland Browns with Hugh Jackson as the head coach. Ouch. 1-15. 1. Uno. Not dos, not tres, not cuatro. Uno. Like, you only have one major win. And that was against Phillip Rivers. Ooh. And, it's insane to me just how that... One, they didn't go 0-16. They didn't pull Detroit Lions. But, of course, Phillip Rivers gives up that game. Oh, Phillip, what are we going to do with you, man? What are we going to do with you? But we look at this schedule. We look at it. Another new head coach. It's like a 2-year. This is like a 2-year hop in and leave. That's just how it looks like. And guess what? There's a new quarterback. In case you forgot, Cody Kessler. He's now here. 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 11 rushes. He was more of a running. He was a little bit, I want to say ahead of his time because Cam Newton's about to become prominent as well, but he has the ability to run the ball. And for the start of his season, he didn't play bad, but he did get hurt, if I'm correct, if I remember that. And that kind of threw things off too. And guess what? There's a new receiver, another rookie. You also have Terrell Pryor, very good receiver now. And the one thing I mentioned way earlier was the offensive line was very good. You're now starting to see the age of some of those guys. 32, 24, 31, 26. Guys have been here for 4 years, 8 years, 9 years. And you have some now younger players in here. You have a rookie on the line now. But the core is starting to get old and leave and move. And that just sums it up. Because now they had a quarterback who could run and move a bit. And now he doesn't get hurt, which is, oh no. But it's, what do I do from here? And now that I'm getting sacked or I'm losing yardage, it's harder to be successful as a quarterback that runs. We move into 2017. This is all. This is rock bottom of rock bottom. 0-16. Hugh Jackson will probably never get another head coaching job because of it. 0-16 with the Cleveland Browns. If you wanted to be shocked, they were 4th in the AFC North Division. I know that's the shocking point of all this, right? That they were 0-16, but they're also 4th, right? Because that wasn't thought of. This is the epitome of the Browns. Because guess what? In their 0-16 season, they had a brand new rookie quarterback, Deshaun Kaiser, out of Notre Dame, 2nd round, 52nd pick. And when I name all these quarterbacks, I want this to be known. I'm not blaming all the quarterbacks for their losses. I'm not saying these quarterbacks were all horrible. They don't deserve this. This has been all the Cleveland Browns quarterbacks' faults. It hasn't been their faults. They haven't built around any of their quarterbacks. They never gave those quarterbacks a chance. They moved too quickly. And part of that movement was because of the head coaches being moved every other year. This being a 2-year job, you never had stability. Guys are bringing in their new offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, all those things that also move when you move a head coach. Usually when a head coach leaves, a lot of his assistants do because those are his guys or her guys. Because there could be a female head coach. I hope there is one day. And but even with the head coach will bring in the people that they want and people they trust to build the system that they want. This takes time. And this takes hitting in the draft. And this takes trust from both sides. And I understand it too. It's hard to trust guys who aren't winning. It's hard for me to trust the Bears. And they were winning 2 seasons ago. It's hard for me to trust the Bulls. As a Chicago fan, it's hard for me to trust the White Sox even. And I ride and die for the White Sox. So it's really hard to like put a number, a time, or anything special on it. Because when there's so much movement and you never give anybody a chance to sit down and grind through it, there's going to be struggles. And the Browns are banking on a quarterback. They kept banking on a quarterback. We're going to get a quarterback. We're going to get a quarterback, and everything is going to be okay. And as much as football may not be as complex as I always make it out to be, it doesn't just work like that all the time. You can have a great quarterback in a horrible system. You can have a great quarterback that struggles because of the coaching. You can have a great quarterback who doesn't play well for you because you don't have the weapons around him. Great quarterbacks are not just because they can make the plays, but also because they have the people that can make the plays with them. And we have to remember that. Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback who can fit into a lot of systems. He won a Super Bowl because he has an arm that can hit 40-yard passes on the dot and receivers that are really fast, so if he overthrows, they can get to it. It helps to have guys who are built around you. Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback and one that deserves a lot of credit. But it helps that he had a good running back and a good 2 receivers that he can make short passes to consistently. So that when he ran the ball, they were like, oh, he can run, but also real quick, he can make a pass. The system makes such a difference in football, more than in basketball, more than in baseball. more than in hockey. What you run and how you run it and how you use your players, basically the job of a coach, comes down to him. Coaching in the football in NFL is so important. In football in general, you can look in the XFL because that's football, I guess, or even college football. It's about guys who work in your system. Not every quarterback or every player is built for a certain system. So it's really tough when you keep moving those systems around. And it's apparent in the 2018 season. When they go 7-8-1, this is like a jump. This is a big jump. It's also because they fired Hugh Jackson, who goes 2-5-1. He had a tie. And then they bring in an interim and Greg Williams. He goes 5-3. And they're now third in the AFC North. We're getting there. We're getting better, right? Are we? I don't know. We're still losing, but we're not losing as bad. Yeah. And this is now the year that everyone who loves the Browns knows that in the first pick of the 2018 draft, the Cleveland Browns select Baker Mayfield. The guy who's in every one of those commercials, that's Baker Mayfield. And he's very good. Like, very, very good. I think. I have to, pause after I say he's very good. Because in this first season, he throws for 27 touchdowns and only 14 picks. You're like, whoa. And he has Jarvis Landry now. And he has some talent around him. Nick Chubb, who's a very good running back. So you have this balanced attack. This is the first time you sit there and you're like, yes, this could work. We're getting there. There are pieces that can build around Baker Mayfield. Now, it's the line. You have about 5 guys here. None of them are over 30. There's some veteran presence, but the guy, your right guard, and Kevin Zettler, has only played for 6 seasons. And that makes him a veteran, but now this team's young. We're young with some talent, though. So there's hope. So now this 2018 season, there's some hype building around the Cleveland Browns. And this is where we get into last year, 2019, when they bring in Freddie Kitchens. This is supposed to be the guy. John Dorsey finally looks, the general manager. I haven't brought up general managers as much because general managers are also moving really quick too. And that's also part of why these head coaches are moving really quick. But I didn't want to put too many names, so I kind of kept the coaches in. But for now, John Dorsey's the general manager at this time. He still is, I think, to this day. But they bring in Freddie Kitchens, and they go 6-10. Why did they go 6-10? You'll find out when we come back from a quick little break, and we talk about last season and the future of the Cleveland Browns here on KCOU 88.1 FM. This is the Rebuildables podcast show. Thank you for tuning in, and we will be back to talk more about the Browns and their future in Cleveland.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable. But how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
The shocking statistics are that 1 in 5 people in Boone County lives in poverty. Even worse, approximately 250 Columbia children are homeless. The Heart of Missouri United Way fights for solutions to improve lives by supporting 33 local organizations that strengthen the health, education, basic needs, and financial stability of our community. Join the fight today and live united by making your gift at uwheartmo.org/donate.
I really hope that Preem and Evans are listening to this because I know they're big Lucky fans. So shout out to them. They're my friends. I love them. They're awesome. But we're here for now the final part of the Rebuildables podcast show here on KCOU 88.1 FM. As I look around in the studio, it's dark. There's a Kanye poster though, which is cool. Yeah. So earlier I brought up Dallas, and we were going to talk about what's going on now. What's the game plan for the future, and what happened in 2019 to these Cleveland Browns? Well, in very Cleveland Browns fashion, they happened to themselves. And I know that's kind of like a weird statement, like they happened to themselves. But it's their luck. It's how they ran. Because in 2019, Freddie Kitchens is still a new coach. This is a coach that Baker Mayfield likes, but it's a new coach. It's a new system. And they bring in this guy who has been a lot of talk and controversial in Odell Beckham Jr., the 27-year-old stud who makes some of the greatest catches in the NFL, but also has a low temper and it's a little sporadic on what he decides to do. The LSU grad who was giving money away right after the game. Odell Beckham is a very, very, very good receiver. Like very, very, very good. And I mean that not just to say, oh, he's okay, but no, he can play. He can make catches. But he's also very quick to action. I think is a good way to say it. It's if we're struggling, well, it's not me. We need to fix it. We need something to go on now. And I think that really has changed a lot of how people see not only him, but how they see the Cleveland Browns' future, especially because Baker Mayfield had a sophomore slump that really turned a lot of people off to him. He went for 22 touchdowns and 21 interceptions. He was about 500. And you can't really be about 500 to win. To win. And they weren't even a 500 team. This is what makes all of this so complicated now. Because for the first time in a while, the system kind of makes sense. Baker Mayfield is a pocket passer who has two great receivers that he can hit in stride and can score. Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. are absolutely great receivers. They came out of LSU together, have so much talent. And Nick Chubb can run the ball. He did really good this year with 8 touchdowns, almost 1,500 yards. So this set of offensive players has the potential to be very, very good. And you also have, who just got reinstated, by the way, this is quick news. Myles Garrett was just reinstated into the NFL. So he had that big suspension for trying to play baseball with a helmet with Miles Rudolph's head. Shouldn't have done that. And he was their first pick in 2017. It wasn't a quarterback, right? Weird. And he's one of the star pieces of their defense. Not only is he out for the rest of this season of 2019, but he'll be back for 2020. That's a big thing too, because they're going to need a couple more pieces. And it really has to go to their offensive line. If Baker Mayfield has a decent line, he can do some work. One thing when I watched the Browns this season, it never felt like there was a consistent flow of what the team was doing. Like they didn't know what was going on. If they don't know what's going on, if they don't feel up to it or right, it's going to be harder to play and be successful. Some of the best quarterbacks and offenses have a really good rhythm to them. Let's take the Titans. The Titans were run 2 downs, quick throw for third. There's a rhythm. There's a flow. And okay, let's do a play action on second down. Okay, there's a rhythm. And this happens in all sports. It's like in basketball. If you have a really good screen and roll mismatch that keeps happening, you keep going to it. Or if the guy hits 2 threes, you give it to him for a third 3. There's reasons for that. There's a rhythm to the game. Even in baseball, if the guy's hitting real well, you move him up the lineup. Let him get more chances at hitting the ball. And even in hockey, if your first line's really feeling it, you may not take him out as quick. Rhythm is one of the biggest things in sports. And I know it's a music term, but it's when you can feel how successful you can be, it's deadly. It really is. And Baker Mayfield 2 years ago as a rookie had a rhythm. This year he didn't. Especially because he's not that great on his feet. He's not horrible on his feet. I'm not going to say he can't run, but he's not meant to be a running quarterback. He's meant to sit in the pocket for a bit and then move when necessary. When you're forcing him to move more, it becomes a problem. And that's where a lot of these interceptions have come from this year. And there's also just a lot of turmoil around the Browns, which is really kind of sad to watch because this is a team out of all of them that deserve it, a fan base that's been struggling forever and deserves an opportunity to win. But they haven't. And what does 2020 bring for them? Well, it still brings them a high pick, which is nice. But it starts to bring them into what do we do about Odell Beckham Jr.? Do we keep him? Do we keep running with him? How is he going to respond to us? Will that response be what we need it to be? Odell Beckham Jr. can play, and I will back that forever. He is a very good receiver. He can run the routes. He can catch the ball. He has 2 great hands. But even though he can do all that, if he's 1, not getting the ball, or 2, being that cancer at times, even if it's not intentional, sometimes, guys are just pissed and they play with emotion. That's totally normal. But even if he's causing so much of a problem, what do you do about it? How do you satisfy that anger? How do you keep this little core together and build upon it? They're going to have to get some more offensive linemen. But maybe get a spot in your safety or 2 that can do just enough. Because their safeties in Demarius Randall and Jermaine Whitehead had in total 1 interception. There's a cornerback had 2. You had 3 interceptions out of your starters. And Denzel Ward can be a good player. He's 22. It's his first season here. Now his second. And these guys are a little younger, 4th and 3rd seasons in the league. But if you can't if people can just score on you, and you put more pressure on your defense, your offense to score, that could be difficult when you face a team that has a decent defense. There needs to be some help, and sometimes that's going to come out of places you don't expect it to be. It could come out Nick Chubb running for 2,000 yards. It could come out Jarvis Landry having 100 catches, even though he really should only have 80, right? Because he's making catches he may not make or shouldn't make, or people don't think he's going to make. And that's where the difference is going to be. It's not just going to be who they get. If they get the line, it's who's going to step up. And how much longer will the Browns trust this core? Because we've seen it again and time again. They run away so quickly from guys and from quarterbacks. I know their quarterbacks aren't all good quarterbacks either. It's not like they're running away from Peyton Manning. They're running away from guys who are subpar. But even with it, they struggled to get that moment and sit on somebody for 3 years and let them grow. They threw Baker Mayfield in early in that season. I think he might have even just started that whole year. So teams had a year to figure him out. This 3rd season for Baker Mayfield, the season coming up, is going to be so important. Because if he has any sign of potential or a real sign of potential, it's going to be hard to walk away from him. If he really struggles, you might have to pull a Colin Cowherd and just bash him more. He might be really good in the advertisements, but he needs to be good in the game. This is going to be the end for now. The Browns are a team that deserve a ring sooner or later. Their fan base deserves a playoff run. And I'll stick true to that until they have one. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rebuildables podcast show, whatever you want to call it. I'm here for it. This episode of the Cleveland Browns has been one of my more fun ones. This is one of those teams that was really at the bottom of the table almost every year. Next week, I don't have in front of me who we're going to do because I do that on purpose now. You got to check the Twitter page. I'm going to keep you updated on the Twitter page, I promise. I really do. Pinky promise. I'm holding my pinky up right now. You got to curl it back in. Okay, cool. So, you've now pinky promised that you'll check the Twitter page and you'll just, follow it. And in return, I will be posting more on it. The next team will be posted this Sunday because that's when I usually do that. And if I don't, yell at me, call me, yell at KCOU because that's all my fault. But thank you for tuning in to the KCOU 88.1, the KCOU 88.1 FM. And I cannot wait to talk to you next week.